Thank all you brave souls for coming out on this lovely autumn day. It's still autumn. We'll do our best to make you forget about the snow shoveling facing you and bring out that warm and fuzzy spirit of the season in which joy and peace should reign over all. As you know, this afternoon we'll bring about a little different format from that of our past Christmas shows. All old radio favorites ran special stories during this time of year, and we've been neglecting those in favor of the biggies like the Christmas Carol, It's a Wonderful Life, Miracle on 34th Street. Tradition is good, but we're hoping you'll also like what we will present today. That old English detective, master of solving all mysteries, Sherlock Holmes, and that middle-aged American school teacher stuck with a grouchy old principal, and high school students who never grow older. Her name, Connie Brooks. Sherlock radio shows began, can anyone guess the year that Sherlock radio shows started? Bet you can't. 1930. Way before my time. The opening story was called The Adventure of the Speckled Band and starred William Gillette. Many Sherlocks later, perhaps the most famous team became Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce. Thank you, Steve. Toward the end of its run, the BBC transcribed the series that aired here, and that cast was John Gielgud as Holmes, Ralph Richardson as Watson, and can anyone remember the name of Sherlock's archenemy? Inspector Moriarty, and in that role, that was Orson Welles. The year by then was around 1954. Incidentally, sometime in the late 40s, when Tom Conway took over the role, writers started to turn Nigel Bruce into the ranking star, and Watson's role was expanded to intrude upon Holmes. You'll hear a couple of startling lines in today's play which seem totally out of context, yet this is an indication that times were indeed changing. For over a decade, the show was initially written by a woman, Edith Meiser, who, as an 11-year-old little girl, fell in love with the Sir Conan Doyle detective genius when he rescued her from boredom on a long sea voyage. She subsequently became an actress and a Holmes addict, writing 2 scripts, certainly, that he could be adapted to radio. Finally, getting a sponsor, she wrote the series single-handedly for 12 years. Enough history. Settle back into your easy chairs, such as they are, and close your eyes and imagine yourselves listening to yet another adventure from the turn of the century in jolly old England.
From New York, the makers of Clippercraft clothes for men and 924 leading retail stores from coast to coast present the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. Our stories are based upon the character of Sherlock Holmes created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Sherlock Holmes is portrayed by John Stanley, Dr. Watson by Alfred Shirley, and the dramatizations are by Edith Meiser. Well, here we are about to enter Dr. Watson's familiar study. Hello, what's this? We find the good doctor hanging up his Christmas holly.
Up adding a sprig of mistletoe, Mr. Harris. Hope springs eternal, as they say. But here, help me down from this chair. My old legs are not as agile as they were in the days when I followed elms through the dungeons and up the tower stairs of old Penn's Dragon Castle.
Oh, here we are.
Thanks.
That sounds suspiciously like the beginning of a Sherlock Holmes yarn, Dr. Watson.
It is, Mr. Harris, it is. Holmes always called it the Adventure of the Christmas Bride. It concerns a ghostly lady in white who was supposed to have disappeared centuries ago, the daughter of a noble family and a certain Father Christmas who suddenly sang bass. And now, while I fix us both a Yuletide toddy, suppose you tell our friends and listeners about a gift every man in our audience would welcome from Father Christmas, or as you Americans call him, Santa Claus.
With pleasure, Dr. Watson. And not only from Santa Claus, a thrifty man can give himself a worthwhile gift anytime if he insists on Clippercraft. For Clippercraft clothes keep on giving for a long, long time. First of all, you've never seen such truly fine clothes at such really low prices. That means you pocket the savings. That's the first gift for yourself. And they also give you superb styling, perfect fit, and long wear. Clippercraft clothes give you so much because of the unique Clippercraft plan, concentrating the buying power of 924 of the nation's leading stores from coast to coast. That means tremendous savings in manufacturing and distribution costs. And yours are the savings this brilliant plan makes possible. Clippercraft suits are only $40 and $45. Clippercraft top coats and overcoats only $40. And sports jackets only $26.50. Clippercraft values are so amazing, we urge you to compare them with clothes selling for many dollars more. And now, how about that Christmas bride, Dr. Watson?
Her name was Ginevra, and she was the heir and only child of Lord Robert Neville, 10th Earl and 54th Baron Pendragon of Pendragon Castle. Yes, I shall never forget my first glimpse of that ancient and somewhat forbidding edifice, the walls gray and bleak without their summer covering of ivy, the towers square and defiant with a red or rouge dragon pennant angrily defying the winter gales. Well, as I was saying, a rather urgent message from Lord Neville on elegant embossed stationery had arrived at 221B Baker Street. Would Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson do him the honor of a visit to Pendragon over the Christmas holidays? A visit to include the wedding of his daughter, Lady Ginevra, to the immensely wealthy but slightly middle-aged Wentworth Trellingham, which was due to occur on the second day of the new year.
Now, don't tell me the eminent Mr. Sherlock Holmes was called in to guard the wedding presents, Dr. Watson.
Well, oddly, Mr. Ayres. At any rate, the day before Christmas found us alighting from our train at a small station in the Cumberland Hills, which, as you know, are situated in the north of England. There had been a slight fall of snow, and an ancient carriage with red wheels and the Neville arms on the door was drawn up to the station platform, while the anxious face of the lord of the manor himself, in top hat and earmuffs, peered through one of the steamy windows.
Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson?
That's right.
This way, gentlemen. His lordship is expecting you in the carriage.
Quite a fall of snow you have here.
Aye, sir, and more's a-comin'. By right, we should have brought the sleigh, only his lordship loaned it to the vicar for tomorrow night. Vicar always plays Father Christmas on Christmas Eve. Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson, sir.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How do you do?
Hop in before you freeze to death.
Thank you.
Now, you hear, Mr. Holmes, and your friend opposite. Now then, Dennis, back to Pendragon as fast as you can.
Aye, my lord.
Mr. Holmes, you are doubtlessly curious as to why I invited you and Dr. Watson to share our Yuletide celebration at Pendragon.
To be quite honest, Lord Neville, I didn't think it was entirely for the pleasure of our society, although Watson is quite an asset when it comes to carol singing.
Oh, a tenor?
Certainly not baritone.
Oh, that's good. The vicar who leads the Christmas singing is rather proud of his tenor voice. And I may say he's not too fond of competition. Mr. Holmes, I have invited you to Pendragon to make sure that nothing nothing occurs to prevent the marriage of my daughter to Mr. Wentworth Trellingham.
Why is that marriage so imperative, Lord Neville?
Oh, to be brutally frank, Mr. Holmes, the Neville estates are mortgaged up to the ears. If that marriage doesn't go through on the second, of that month, I shall be bankrupt, totally bankrupt.
I see. Has anything occurred, Lord Neville, to make you fear this marriage may not take place?
Well, no, that is nothing definite.
Perhaps the Lady Ginevra hasn't been able to hide her distaste for the match.
Oh, no, nothing like that. Well, I wouldn't say it was a passionate attachment on either side, but they like the same things, and she laughs at all of his jokes.
What better foundation could one ask for a marriage, eh, Watson?
That's what I should have said. Well, everything was as smooth as silk until the Dowager Duchess of Terrace gave an engagement dinner last month. It was at her suggestion that I sent you the invitation to Pendragon. She's been decidedly edgy ever since Percy returned in the midst of the betrothal dinner 2 weeks ago.
Percy?
Yes, Percy is my cousin. Although he's only 7 years older than Ginevra, he is our next of kin.
I see.
As a matter of fact, he's an orphan and has lived with us at Pendragon until he went off to Canada to seek his fortune 2 years ago.
If anything should happen to your daughter before she produced an heir, would Percy Neville inherit?
Yes, Dr. Watson, both the title and the estate.
Percy Neville's return was unexpected, I gather.
It was unexpected and melodramatic, to say the least. The betrothal dinner was being held in the great hall of Pendragon Castle. My daughter had just risen to return her bridegroom's toast. As she lifted her glass, a casement window was thrown violently open, and Percy walked in from the night.
And now I should like to make a toast to my future bridegroom. Percy!
Good heavens, Percy! Is it really you?
I'm sorry to make such an abrupt entrance, Lady Terce, but I came as soon as I received news of the engagement.
Percy, why didn't you let us know you were coming?
Let you know? Let you know when you never bothered to answer my letters?
But Percy, we never received any letters. We thought you'd forgotten us.
I'd forgotten, as if that would have mattered.
Percy, that's not true. You know how fond we are of you.
How touching.
Percy, this is Wentworth. Wentworth Trellingham, my future bridegroom.
So, this is the little man they've sold you to.
Stop that! Stop it at once! I'm very fond of Wentworth.
Are you, my dear Ginevra?
Percy, why do you look at me like that?
To think that you would so soon forget our family motto, Ne vele velis. The name never means that, you know. Ne vele velis.
Ne vile velis. Latin, I take it, Holmes.
Quite. It means stoop to nothing base. In case you've forgotten your Ovid, Watson.
Oh, teach your grandmother to suck eggs.
Tell me, Lord Neville, what happened after Percy quoted the family motto to your daughter?
He stamped off to his old rooms in the tower and hasn't been out of them since.
How does the Lady Ginevra react to this unfriendly behavior?
She says let him sulk. It's no concern of hers. Lady Terce, on the other hand, is thoroughly unnerved by Percy's return.
Oh?
Yes, she feels sure he'll do something outrageous the day of the wedding. Poor Wentworth is as edgy as a hen on a hot griddle. Well, of course, that may be due to his encounter with the White Lady.
The White Lady? Who is she?
The ghost of the first Ginevra, the bride who played hide and seek on her wedding night and was never seen alive again. Years later, her skeleton was found in her great dower chest, still dressed in her wedding gown. She had hidden it there, and somehow the hasp must have fallen down, and she was locked in and smothered to death.
Seems to me I remember a rather famous poem on the subject.
Oh, yes. So all the Ginevras in the Nelville family have been named after her. She's supposed to walk through the halls of the castle whenever a misfortune is due to occur.
A cheerful damson, eh, Holmes?
Well, when and how did Trillingham meet the lady?
Well, Mr. Holmes, it seems it's his habit to knock on my daughter's door on his way to bed to wish her good night. Last night, the wind was rather high, and he couldn't seem to make my daughter hear. Suddenly, he heard a strange creaking noise down the corridor behind him. Looking round, he saw the lid of the dower chest rise slowly.
Ginevra, my dear. It is I, Wentworth. I have come to bid you good night. Ginevra, are you there? Ginevra.
Who calls me?
What was that? Good Lord! The lid of the chest is rising. There's not the woman in white. She's rising out of the chest. Who are you?
The first, Ginevra. You called to me, so I have come to warn you. Go away. Go away before it is too late.
Then what happened, Lord Neville?
Nothing, Mr. Holmes. Apparently, the white figure glided past my daughter's fiancé and disappeared up the tower steps.
What did the lady look like? Blonde? Brunette?
Wentworth says her features were hidden by a bridal veil.
Yes, interesting. I suppose anyone in the house would have access to that tower chest.
Oh, on the contrary, Mr. Holmes, too many people are possessed in insatiable curiosity. I keep the silly things safely padlocked, I promise you.
How many keys are there to that padlock?
Oh, one, which I keep by me here on my key ring.
A very wise precaution.
I say, Holmes, your bed is even larger than the one in my room. The butler tells me Queen Victoria slept there when she paid a visit in 1846.
Don't look so superior, Watson. Queen Elizabeth, I am told, slept here quite a few years before that. Come in. Oh, Lady Terce, beautiful and charming as ever.
Stuff and nonsense. Glad to see you both, the both of you. Something is going on here. I don't like it.
What sort of something are you referring to, Lady Terce?
Don't know. If I did, I wouldn't have sent for you. Ginevra looks as if butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. Bad sign. Percy looks like a thundercloud. That's worse.
I thought Percy locked himself in his room and refused to see anyone.
I'd like to see anyone refuse to see me. Ah, but I'm gabbing. You'll want to view the premises.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to inspect that dower chest. It might be interesting to investigate how a lady in white can emerge from a carefully padlocked coffer.
Then you don't think it was a ghost? Neither do I. Well, what was she up to?
We should be able to answer those questions better, Lady Terce, after we've had a chance to look inside that box. I wonder if you could persuade Lord Neville to lend us the key.
Here's the key, Mr. Holmes. Lord Neville insists I bring it back the moment you've finished with it.
Suspicious old boy, I Holmes.
Not suspicious, Dr. Watson. Fussy. Well, Mr. Holmes, why the delay? Open the silly chest. Let's see what's inside.
Not so fast, Lady Terce, not so fast. First, let's have a look at the lock.
Heavy old bit of machinery.
Yes, almost impossible to pick it without showing signs. There are no signs.
Then whoever opened it used that key.
Not necessarily, Watson.
But there's only one key. Lord Neville told us so.
And if Robert says a thing, it's gospel.
Yes, interesting carving around the lock. The wood is very old.
Naturally. Open it up. I'm dying of curiosity.
Very well. The lock needs oiling. It hasn't been unlocked for some time. I'll remove the padlock. Here, Watson, hold it. Now, Lady Terse, if you would help me raise the lid.
Right.
Good Lord! What's that?
Oh, that's Thor, Ginevra's spaniel. He goes everywhere with her. Regular shadow. Yes, here she comes.
Hello there. I'm Ginevra. Why, you must be Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson.
Delighted.
Don't let me stop you, Mr. Holmes.
You won't.
Father told me what you're up to. I'm dying to see what's in that chest, too. Go ahead, open it up. Now, Thor, down, boy.
It's a biggish box, isn't it?
Yes, a woman could easily hide in there.
Something white and satin is lying on the bottom.
Wonderful. It must be her wedding dress. I'd always heard it was still in there. Remarkable to find it in such good condition after all these years.
The remarkable thing about it, Lady Ginevra, is this dust and dirt on the hem. Watson, give me an envelope. I shall want to take a sample.
But that's fascinating. I've heard simply fabulous things about you, Mr. Holmes, and now I believe them, every one.
Do you? Yes, I think we've seen everything there is to be seen here. Watson, you may close the lid and lock it.
Right.
Aha, so this is Mr. Sherlock Holmes and his famous deductions. They told me you were coming.
They? Who's they? I understood you've let no one in here, not even the maid.
You've overlooked Lady Terse. Try to keep her out of anything.
I didn't mention Mr. Holmes, Percy, or did I?
Don't look so suspicious, Lady Terse. I have decided to be a good boy. I've even decided to come downstairs tonight and join in the Christmas Eve festivities.
Percy, that gleam in your eye. I've known you too long. You're up to something.
If you want to know what satisfying people really means, ask any man who wears Clipper craft clothes. He'll sing their praises with good reason, too, for values like Clipper craft amaze even clothing experts. Until you see Clipper craft clothes and try them on, you won't believe such really superb suits are possible at only $40 and $45, and such rich, long-wearing top coats and overcoats at only $40, and such very smart sports jackets at only $26.50. For just a fraction of what you'd expect to pay, you get correct styling, perfect fit, and long-wearing materials. An ingenious plan makes this possible, the Clipper Craft Plan, which concentrates the buying power of 924 of the nation's leading stores from coast to coast. You'll get the savings that result from this group buying at your own local independent store, the store you can trust. Selling expensive clothes at inexpensive low prices at the nation's finest independent stores is the great big idea behind the Clipper Craft Plan. That's why men who know insist on Clipper Craft clothes. So be sure to visit the Clipper Craft store in your city.
Oh dear, the vicar is late. Down, Thor, down.
Calm yourself, Ginevra. He'll be here.
But Percy, the snow is so deep. What if he can't get through?
Now, don't worry. The sleigh is light and he has Vixen, the best horse in the county. Nothing can pass her, you know.
Oh dear, I hope so. No, Thor, down. What ails this dog?
He may prove to be a bit of a problem, don't you think?
Goodness, I hope not. Oh, Mr. Holmes, I didn't see you behind that chair.
An ancient wing chair often provides a good listening post, my dear.
Now look here, you meddling busybody.
Now, Percy, please. You promised.
Suppose you allow me to solve the problem of the dog.
Would you, Mr. Holmes? I mean, listen. Sleigh bells. The vicar is driving up.
He's here. Father Christmas has arrived. Open the door, Paddleford. Now then, everyone.
Here I am, my friends. I've never been so cold. My right ear's half frozen.
Come along, Father Christmas. Percy will take you into the dining room. You can have a hot toddy while you get out of your wrappings.
That's a good idea. A good idea.
You better disguise your voice, sir, or all the children will guess who you are.
That's a good idea, too. Gather all around all and bring in the Yule log. Ha ha ha! Father Christmas will be with you in a moment to give out the presents to all the good boys and girls. There, how was that?
Vicar, you're wonderful. Now go along. Take good care of him, Percy.
Never fear, my dear.
Mr. Holmes, they're bringing in the Yule log. Come and help me set fire to it.
Oh!
Oh, look out! Dr. Watson has caught Lady Terse under the mistletoe.
Oh, I declare I never had such a Christmas. Come along, Ginevra. They're ready for you to light the fire.
Oh, dear, now where did I put those matches?
Allow me, Lady Ginevra.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Watson.
I say, how she burns, Holmes, eh?
How lovely. I do like to toast my feet in front of a Yule log.
I beg your pardon, Lady Ginevra. Haven't you raised your skirts a bit too high?
Oh, my goodness. I forgot.
Ginevra, my dear, your fiancé is making quite an ass of himself. Runs into the library every other minute to see no one has lifted one of the wedding presents.
Oh, that silver, and your present, Lady Terse, the diamond tiara.
I'll admit that the tiara is a temptation. You shouldn't have given it to me, Lady Terse. It's wonderful.
Not at all. Confounded nuisance. Given me a headache for years. Glad to be rid of it.
Here's Father Christmas. Gather round the punch bowl, everyone. We'll have a drink or so before we give out the presents.
That's the ticket. I say there, Vicar, Father Christmas, I mean. Let's start us off with a carol. Can't drink your eggnog without a song.
Right you are, fair lady. Good King Wenceslas went out on a Christmas morning.
Jolly, eh, Holmes? Nothing like a good old-fashioned English Christmas. Straight out of Dickens, don't you know?
Hello there, Father Christmas. Not leaving us so soon.
Well, that is, it's a good long way home. Have to get going. Don't tell the others. Wouldn't want to disturb the party.
Quite. How about a hot toddy before you leave? Stirrup cup, you know?
Having time, having time.
I thought you might say so, so I prepared this jug full of grog. Keep it well wrapped. It'll keep you warm. It's a long, cold drive to Gretna Green.
But, Mr. Holmes...
No time to waste. On your way, Father Christmas. Think of me when you drink the grog.
We will. Wassail.
Wassail. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
What's this? The vicar off so soon?
Yes, Lord Neville. He seemed in a hurry to get home.
I can't blame him. It's a cold night. Let's us get inside before we freeze to death.
Good idea.
Oh, I say. They're ready to start the dancing. Wentworth is trying to find Ginevra so they can lead the dancers.
Help! Help me, someone!
Who's that calling?
Good heavens! What's that?
Get me out! I'm locked in!
Someone's gotten himself locked in the dungeon. This way, the entrance is through the dining room.
I was hoping for more of a head start.
What's that?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
Oh, this is the door to the dungeon.
Let me out! Let me out, I say.
Oh dear, the door is bolted. Just a moment.
Get me out of here.
Good Lord. It's the vicar down there in his underwear and trussed up like a New Year's goose.
This is an outrage. Get me out of here.
But if the vicar is here, who drove off in the sleigh?
Presumably an impostor who stole the vicar's clothes. I thought it might be, when I heard Father Christmas sing bass.
Say, Holmes, where are you? Lady Ginevra. Can't find her anywhere. She's disappeared, vanished into thin air.
Great Scott, someone get the vicar out of the dungeon. I've got to find my daughter.
Oh, Mr. Holmes, come quickly. Ginevra has disappeared, and her dog is crouched in front of the dower chest, howling.
Oh, hurry, gentlemen. The same scoundrel who locked the vicar in the dungeon has undoubtedly put Ginevra in the dower chest.
I only hope we're not too late, eh, Holmes?
Wentworth tried to get the chest open, but the dog won't let him near. There, you see?
Easy, therefore. Good boy. Yes. I know that you're trying to say, we'll get her out. Oh, confound it, the key. Lady Terrace, what did you do with the key?
But I gave it back to you.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Oh, yes, I did too.
Oh, that's quite all right, No key needed. The wood is so old and the staples so loose, it's possible to lift the lock right out, like this. That's it. I'll raise the lid.
Great Scott, there's nothing in here but a roast of beef.
Yes, Thor's made off with it, I'm afraid. That explains his interest in the chest.
But if Ginevra isn't here, where is she?
With Father Christmas, I imagine. They're heading for the Scottish border in the sleigh. You'll never catch them, I'm afraid.
Of course. She's eloped with Percy. So she did talk him round. Good for her. So that's why she trailed off up the tower steps in that old bridal gown.
I suspected as much when I discovered some of Percy's ashes on its hem.
But this is dreadful. I shall be ruined. We'll have to return all the wedding presents.
Fiddly-dee. Personally, I shall make mine a much handsomer contribution. Ginevra will have the tiara and my emeralds as well. They're worth a king's ransom.
Lady Teresa, you are an astounding female.
All women are. Oh, but we're keeping the dancers waiting. You shall lead the dancers with me, Robert. Come along.
Holmes, you old fraud. I believe you knew what was going on all the time.
I suspected, Watson. I suspected. But when I saw Lady Ginevra raise her ball gown and display a pair of traveling boots, I was sure. But come along, Watson. We shall go down to the kitchen and make our peace with the cook.
Why is that?
For making off with Sunday's roast of beef. Something had to be done to keep the dog interested, or he'd have given the whole show away.
Well, that certainly was a Christmas story with all the trimmings, Dr. Watson.
Glad you liked it, Mr. Harris. And now I'll fill up our glasses so we can drink a Christmas toast to our listeners and our sponsors.
Well, nothing would give me greater pleasure, Dr. Watson.
Now, here's your glass, Mr. Harris.
Well, thank you.
And here's to our radio friends, young and old. A very Merry Christmas and happiness, prosperity, and peace in the new year.
Indeed, Dr. Watson, and warm greetings to all the makers of Clippercraft clothes. And now, Dr. Watson, how about if I introduce the cast that just helped to bring us the story of the Christmas Bride?
Splendid, old boy, splendid. Be my guest.
Well, that, dear audience, is probably as close as the great Sherlock ever got to being a true romantic, helping those two run away and elope instead of entering into a loveless marriage for the sake of saving the family from bankruptcy. Couldn't be a greater Christmas gift, could it, Dr. Watson?
Quite.
Appearing this afternoon as that brilliant English detective, Sherlock Holmes, was Walt Kovalek, with his ever-present aide, Dr. Watson, being played by Herb Thompson. Ginevra and Percy, the bride and groom, off to their happily ever after honeymoon, were Judy Marsh and Dave Sanchi. A good thing she wore those gunboat shoes so that our hero detective could solve the case. Lady Terse, rich dowager to the financial rescue, was Sue Gazinski. And the ever-grateful, no longer poor Lord Neville was played by Roger Morris. Poor Wentworth Trellingham, no longer able to claim his Victorian arm candy, that went to John Shefsky. But we're sure he'll survive. The remaining multiple roles of the carriage man and Thor the dog, the vicar, and in addition to announcing duties, those went to yours truly, Jay Summerfield. And I tell you, I'm mighty glad they didn't make me come out here in my underwear, as the story says. As always, tape musical interludes and sound effects were created by our Foley man, Tom Lenz.